You know, I don't know.
My ex-wife and I never did. Never. I gave her cigarettes for our anniversary one year.
Oh, there you go. That's fucking romantic.
She didn't like gifts. She didn't like gifts. I said, well, I want to get you something. What do you want? Let's give me a couple packs of cigarettes. So I wrapped them up and gave them to her.
Yeah, have some lung cancer. Happy, Merry, Christmas Eve, Chanukah. What's some of the other ones, Steve?
Don't forget Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa. For those of you who like to sit in front of a computer and jack your dick for 8 hours, I'm sure there's a holiday
Krampus
for you too. Krampus. This is episode 60 of the Fortean Slip, your special edition Christmas Eve episode. Santa Was A Hippie. Tonight, today, sometime, Steve and I take a look at the possibility of Santa being a mushroom carrying drug dealer or a shaman.
I don't think it's just a possibility. I think it's the truth.
Yeah, I'd heard this excuse me, quite a while ago, and I bought right into it because I was like, yeah, a lot of this makes sense. So I threw the story to Steve this morning, and Steve said, yes.
Yes.
This is what we need to do today. Because we had no fucking clue what we were going to do anyway. But,
unlike usual, when we always know ahead of time what we're doing.
We fucking never know. It's very, very rare. I got this from, actually, I grabbed one story earlier. It was a bit longer. And this one kind of sums up everything in 8 parts. So it made it a little bit easier for you and I to kind of go over it.
Right.
But I'm going to take this straight from livescience.com. I will put the link to the story underneath the video on YouTube. So if anyone wants to go through and read over what we're going over, you're more than fucking welcome. So from livescience.com, this is 8 ways magic mushrooms explain the Santa story. The story of Santa and his flying reindeer can be traced to an unlikely source, hallucinogenic or magic mushrooms, according to one theory. Santa is a modern counterpart of a shaman who consumed mind-altering plants and fungi to commune with the spirit world, said John Rush, an anthropologist and instructor at Sierra College in Rockland, California. Here are 8 ways that hallucinogenic mushrooms explain the story of Santa and his reindeer. Number 1. Arctic shamans gave out mushrooms on the winter solstice. I guess they went around, Steve, and gave everybody bags of mushrooms as a kind of a present.
Yeah, and they did that up until, it says, a few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not that old of a... I mean, it's an old ancient tradition, but it didn't end all that long ago.
And, you know, I, on the winter solstice, often want to trip my balls off. Because, hey, look at the pretty colors, Steve.
And the winter solstice falls around this time of year, so that's how obviously it would be connected to the Christmas story.
Yeah, it was just the other day.
Right.
I think was it Sunday? Was the winter
I
solstice?
have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But one of the other things that is kind of interesting is that it said that these shamans, because the snow was usually blocking the doors to the houses, they had an opening through the roof, which people went in and out of the house. And that's where the chimney story comes from, supposedly.
The smoke hole.
Well, it's not really a smoke hole. It was more of an entrance and an exit. But I think that's kind of interesting. You'd call that a smoke hole?
I'm calling it a smoke hole.
You can call it whatever the fuck you want. All right. Number 2, Steve. Mushrooms, like gifts, are found beneath pine trees.
That they are.
The Amanita this is a fucking Alcorn moment yet again in my mouth.
But I think you had it. Amanita muscaria.
Amanita muscaria mushroom. The iconography of Christmas, according to several historians and ethnomycologists, or people who study fungi, influence on human societies. Of course, not all scientists agree that the Santa story is tied to a hallucinogen. In his book, Mushrooms and Mankind, The Book Tree, 2003, the late author James Arthur points out that Amanita muscaria, also known as fly agaric, lives throughout the northern hemisphere under conifers and birch trees. So, because they're bright red with white dots and they're underneath pine trees, they kind of look like gifts.
That could be, yeah. I lost my... Oh, I thought it was funny that you couldn't read those words.
Of course you did.
Because it's usually me.
Of course you did, you jackass.
I love it when somebody else fucks up.
Oh, today we fucking switch roles. It's a fucking Christmas present for everybody.
And I got it right. It's Amanita muscaria.
Yeah, it is Amanita muscaria.
But I don't think that I could have pronounced enthymite. No, I couldn't have.
Yeah, I didn't pronounce it right, so I know goddamn well you can't.
Entomycologist. Entomycologist is what it is.
So, number 3 on the list, Steve, reindeer were shaman spirit animals.
Nice.
And I had heard something about how the people of that time had seen the reindeer eating the mushrooms, and that they had in turn eaten the mushrooms, and that, you know, the hallucinations that came from that were part of why they started thinking that the reindeer were flying. Now, that was just... I don't know where that I saw that or heard that from, so that's just, you know, a story. It's speculation on my part. But
that original article, I don't know if you want to link to that in the below, but the original article that you sent me this morning...
it says it in this one, actually.
Oh, it probably does.
Me being the dumb fuck that I am, Steve, if I'd have read a little bit further in the article.
Well, they said they've seen... The folks seen the reindeers eating these, and then they would walk around like drunk, you know, the reindeer would. So that's probably why people started eating them as well. Although it doesn't say it in this particular article, and I told you I wanted to touch on it, but they would dry them out, and they would actually hang them by their fireplaces and stockings to dry these mushrooms out, because if you eat them before they're dried out, it can cause you to vomit and shit like that.
Oh, yeah, fucking hallucinogenic mushrooms are horrible.
Obviously, the reindeer were probably vomiting shit, but, you know, some dude back in the day said, hey, that looks like a fine idea. Let's eat one of them.
Yeah, let's have some of that.
And the Christmas tradition was born.
But, yeah, right in this article, it says that a Harvard University biologist who studies fungi suggests that Siberian tribesmen who ingested fly agaric may have hallucinated that the grazing reindeer were flying. So it's a general, I guess, held idea, because this isn't the only article I've found on this, and it isn't the only time I've read about it either. Number 4, Steve, shamans dressed like Santa Claus, and I guess by that I mean as a big red motherfucker.
Well, they were trying to emulate the mushroom, so they would dress in red suits with white spots on it, because obviously the mushroom, you know,
and they had
pretty cool.
And I guess part of that was getting fat too, because
maybe
you had to be bulbous like the mushroom. Maybe they thought that was the
cool. The original Saint Nicholas was, if we're comparing Santa Claus to these shamans, the original Saint Nicholas was actually not fat and jolly. He was tall and thin. So
that I did not know. So I learned something today, Steve. You learned about mushrooms and Christmas. I learned about a skinny Saint Nick. All right. Number 5. Mushrooms are abound in Christmas iconography. Ornaments, obviously the colors, there's all kinds of little ties there. Before we were starting the show, we were looking at pictures of Christmas trees with the mushrooms hanging upside down like Christmas ornaments. All kinds of stuff, and there's all kinds of art, related to this out there as well. And
I was surprised to see that there was actual depictions of Santa Claus as a mushroom. In fact, the hat, the red and white top of the mushroom was actually his hat. I thought, wow, maybe there is something to this theory because, it goes way back. I think you have one picture from 1904 which shows all the mushrooms, and then there's these Christmas decorations with Santa Claus as a mushroom. So I think we've hit on something here, Chris. I think Santa was high.
Santa was a drug dealer. He fucking delivered hallucinogenics to all the little boys and girls of the world. Or Siberia. But
Right.
number 6 on the list, Steve, the one that you love the most, your favorite one, Rudolph's nose resembles a bright red mushroom.
I think they're stretching a little bit on this point.
I don't even like this one myself. I like it just for comedic value.
Well, if you ever watched, and I'm sure you have, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there was something strange going on with that fucking reindeer. So maybe he was, high.
Any of those types of shows back then. Do you think they hired the fucking normal people to make that shit? Yeah, we need you to make this stop motion movie about a fucking reindeer that flies and saves Christmas with a bright red nose. Yeah, you, straight sober guy, could you please help me put this together?
Yeah, I don't think that any of the. I mean, just think of all the time it took to make that stupid Rudolph movie. I mean, it was all stop motion animation, wasn't it? The original one.
Oh yeah, it's all
so
stop
it would have
motion.
took forever. So you would have had to been on something just to have the patience to fucking do that. So I guess we got some pretty weird.
If I'm putting my money on something, I'm putting my money on the fact that more than half of the people that made Rudolph were a little fucked up.
A little.
Just saying. So, number 7 on the list, Steve. A visit from St. Nicholas may have borrowed from shaman rituals. Now, I'll read through this one because I don't quite understand this one. So, many of the modern details of the modern-day American Santa Claus come from the 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, which later became famous as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. The poem is credited to Clement Clark Moore, an aristocratic academic who lived in New York City. The origins of Moore's vision are unclear, although Arthur Rush and Ruck all think the poet probably drew from Northern European motifs that derive from Siberian or Arctic shamanic traditions. At the very least, Arthur wrote Santa's sleigh and reindeer are probably references to various Northern European mythology. For example, the Norse god Thor, known in German as Donner, flew in a chariot drawn by 2 goats, which have been replaced in modern retelling by Santa's reindeer, Arthur wrote. So, yes, I guess that kind of makes a little sense.
Well, if you think about it, all of our modern versions of Santa Claus come from Clement Clark Moore's poem, and that's probably why I put it on my YouTube channel. I read it every year.
Oh, you mean the one that got taken down?
Oh, but it's back.
Yeah, I know.
Because Steve wins again. Hey,
Steve.
I always win, Chris. In the end, I always win.
Steve.
We won't.
He'll come at you from the darkness. You're like a you're like a dark soul. You have this. Everybody thinks you're like this bright, like kind of goofy guy. Steve's just like this dark, tortured soul, and he will fuck you up.
I can if I want to, but I won't. But anyway, so where I was going with that is, all of our modern ideas of Santa Claus came from that poem. So if it was taken from Norse tradition or, the shamanic traditions from the Siberia, then definitely we would, be able to make the connection between the mushrooms and Santa Claus. So
Yeah.
I can see it.
I'm
And of course, Moore would have probably been familiar with all the traditions because of, they were around in that time. And Santa used to dress in green. Did you know that?
Yeah, I've
Did
seen.
you see
I've
how
seen
I just
those.
trailed off and went into
Yeah,
another?
I've seen those. But I've seen those depictions of him in green before. So, but yeah,
But until Moore came along, he would, that's what solidified it as what we have today. So
right. So, and the last bit on the list, number 8, Steve, is Santa is from the Arctic. I'm shocked, Steve.
no, he's from the Arctic.
I am shocked that he is from a place where it's cold and there's snow. That one they could have left right off the fucking list, I think. But but
Well,
although
it's
it does,
just saying because
right, it does explain that these Siberian shamans were in the Arctic. They did.
Right.
It's well documented that they did deal with reindeer and mushrooms, and sometimes people would also drink the urine of the shaman, Steve. That is what is called as a good egg, I think.
I'm not drinking anybody's urine. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care if I can get high from it or what. I'm not touching somebody's urine. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
So I think what we're telling
How
people
come we don't
today,
sit around
I think
at
what we're
Yule
telling
log
people
and
today,
drink
Steve,
urine?
is that in order to like really celebrate Christmas, you have to give your significant other a golden shower, or just anybody really.
The show was going along so well.
Who said?
Did they really drink
Who said
urine?
the fucking show was going along well? No, really, who?
I just thought about it in my mind.
And it's
That
not.
dark, evil place that, it's not. It never does.
But I've been all in with this for a while. I've known about this for quite a while. I think we touched on a little bit last year when we did the Christmas Santa Origins, Christmas Origins, whatever fucking episode. I think we touched on it a little bit.
I got to read this.
Oh God.
Well, you said something about the urine, so I had to go and read it. But they would also drink the reindeer's urine. And the reason they did it is because the hallucinogenic compounds were still there, but the harmful chemicals, like what made them throw up and shit, would be extracted because of that. Because of the urine.
I'm all about hallucinogenic pee.
Okay. Carry on.
But yeah, I'm all in with this. I have been for a while as far as the origins of Santa Claus and Christmas, and anybody who has any type of knowledge knows that it comes from shamanic traditions and pagan traditions. The whole Christmas,
And it obviously predates Christianity, the traditions, some of them.
Yeah,
So
I
I get offended. I grew up in church. You know that, Chris. I've talked about it on the show, and I used to be one of these keep Christ in Christmas, and don't put X in place of Christmas. But when you look into things, the traditions go way back.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to say one thing about not. When I grew up in church, you weren't allowed to say Xmas. Because you're taking Christ out of Christmas when you do that. But in the not ancient, but in Hebrew, I think X stands for Christ. So, they lose on both levels there because, first of all, Christ had nothing to do with Christmas before Christianity, and X actually stands for Christ. So you're losing on both levels when you make that argument. And it pisses me off.
Christ was actually probably born in September.
Well, I've heard March, but it could be September. But it wasn't in the middle of the winter.
Right. It was not in the middle of the fucking winter.
And this is nothing against Christianity or the way we celebrate Christmas that way. I'm just saying, look into your history and find out that, hey, maybe the argument I'm making is
Hey, I have no problem with people who are Christians who want to, celebrate Christmas in the way that they want to celebrate it, or whoever the fuck you are, and whatever celebration you want to do. Fucking, hey, I'm not judging you on that. Just know where it came from, and don't try to fucking belittle that. Because my problem is you've got all these people who get pissed off. Like, one thing that I noticed is that you say happy holidays to people, and people get pissed off nowadays because it's not the holidays, it's Christmas. Well, yeah, for you fucking cocksucker. But all in all, it's the Yule was a pagan fucking tradition.
Right, and the Christmas trees and just about everything that we celebrate today, the only thing that we celebrate at Christmas time that actually relates to Christ at all is the fact that that's when people believe he was born. So like your nativity and all that. But
Right.
Other than that, there's no connection to Christmas for Christianity except for the name, because somebody at some time thought it would be a good idea to
Yeah, but I
Christ and
I have
put it
no
there.
problem if anybody wants to take it and make it their
Right,
own.
absolutely.
And celebrate it
great.
in their way. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Do whatever you want. Just know where it came from. Know where it came from, and don't be ignorant.
Right. Do your research. If you want to argue that we should celebrate it your way, then do the research to prove why. Just don't say, hey, keep Christ in Christmas, but don't give any explanation or
Exactly.
that kind of thing. Because it's not an argument when you do it that way. So.
Yeah, it just becomes a fucking.
And for those who are listening, who are my Christian friends, I put an angel at the top of my tree or a star at the top of my tree every year. So those are Christian traditions. So it's not like against people celebrating that way. It's just I want you to know why you're celebrating that way.
I grew up Christian. I celebrate it as I always celebrated it as a kid and as a young adult, and now it hasn't changed any for me because of that. It's just I prefer to know the actual origins of these things rather than to just spew ignorant bullshit out of my mouth because
Absolutely.
I think that I'm right.
Now, we're not really saying that 100% that Santa comes from these traditions, but some of them, they've been melded over the years with other traditions. And
it's very obvious if you look into the history of these things that Christmas has pagan roots. It was not, it did not come about because of a Christian tradition. It was adopted.
No.
So.
Right. And just like many Christian traditions and other traditions,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Steve, on that note, you got any news?
Yes, I do. And it's all Christmassy.
Isn't that sweet?
Well, I thought, since it's Christmas Eve, Chris, or some folks probably listening on Christmas Day or even after, but it's a Christmas themed show, so I thought I'd do a Christmas themed news today. And our first story from the express.co.uk. Somebody saw an angel, and it's a Christmas message, they think, from their late father. It says, when Sherry Abbott spotted an angel in the clouds, she immediately knew it was a sign from her late father. I don't know how she knew that, but she did. She was driving when the winged finger
because her phone rang and she picked it up and he said, "Hey, it's Dad."
She was driving when the winged figure appeared in the sky in front of her car. Sherry told daughter Laranka, what the hell kind of name is Laranka? Cunningham, 17, to take a picture of the vision, which hung in an otherwise cloudless sky for 30 minutes. She was
Cunningham, look, there's an angel in the sky.
She was sure it was a Christmas message from her father, Colin Abbott, who passed away, 20 years ago. Sherry was a single... He waited 20 years to send her the message, apparently. Sherry is a single mother from Boston. She said, I just started sobbing. It was absolutely stunning. It was an angel sent down for me.
Hey, Cunningham, it's an angel.
It was a sign to tell me everything was going to work out. As I was driving, I quickly told Loranka to take a picture on her phone before it disappeared. The pair were driving along A17 between Sutton Bridge, Lincolnshire, and Kingsland, Norfolk. They were on their way to visit Sherry's sister in Great Yarmouth when the apparition appeared. Sherry said that seeing the image gave her hope for the future. She had recently been told that her son William, who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare connective tissue disorder, had also developed a heart condition. She said, when I saw the angel, I knew in an instant that Christmas was going to be all right and that my son's health would improve. She said, it's truly a breathtaking and overwhelming experience.
Hey.
She's seen clouds in the sky that resembled an angel, and now her son is going to be healed.
Whatever makes you feel better.
Hey, if it makes her feel better, it's all good.
This
one's from Fox News. In Ohio, there's this guy who put up a nativity scene, but it was all zombies. But the homeowners association made him take it down. An Ohio homeowner was ordered by town officials actually to remove a nativity scene in front of his house that featured zombies instead of wise men and a baby Jesus. I wanted a nativity, and I worked with what I had. Jason Dixon.
Yeah, I worked with what I had. Yeah.
Well, he manages a nearby haunted house. The neighbors don't like it. My father hates it, and anything bad that happens, he blames it on that. The nativity scene features life-size figurines and a zombie baby Jesus.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything else. Pure. You know, they don't sell any like regular nativity scenes around here.
At night, the figures are illuminated by red and green lights. I didn't really pay it any attention until the different color lights came on. Then finally the baby was put in the manger, Dan Fluker, a neighbor, told the station. According to documents obtained by Fox 19, Sycamore Township, which is outside Cincinnati, does not allow structures to be located in the front or the side yard to occupy more than 35% of the area. Also, the primary structure must be 3 feet from the street and 6 feet from the house. Yeah, it sounds like a ploy just to get him to remove it. Dixon, who manages 13 Rooms of Doom, says this is the second violation since the exhibit was put up. He indicated that his First Amendment right is being infringed upon due to the religious element. He said, I've lived here for 15 years and I've never had a violation of any kind. It's a holiday decoration. I knew if it was a real pretty nativity scene, they wouldn't be saying anything. Dixon, who said about 40 people took photographs of what he calls the world's first zombie nativity scene, has until December 26th to take it down. If he does not take it down, legal action will be taken.
So he can keep it up until after Christmas.
Yes.
No. Well, fuck it.
Well, apparently they give you so much time, and he probably just happened to put it up at the right time. But I'm all for a zombie nativity scene. There's nothing wrong with that.
I just think it's fucking hilarious that he was like, I worked with what I had. I couldn't possibly find something else.
There was no baby dolls.
No, you were just being a jackass. That's all it was.
He was being a jackass just to piss people off. You're right. And in our final story from the HuffingtonPost.com, there is apparently a satanic Christmas display at the Florida State Capitol. A woman is in custody for damaging... I can't even speak. It's so interesting. A woman is in custody for damaging a holiday display placed at the Florida State House by a Satanist group, according to the Tallahassee Democrat. The display, a religious diorama that featured an angel falling from heaven into hell, was placed in the Florida State Capitol by the Satanic Temple. Both the Florida Department of Law Enforcement...
Satan just fucking pulling a train with all of his demons on everybody.
Both the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and a spokesman for the Satanic Temple confirmed that the display had been damaged. According to Reuters, the display was quickly restored. Earlier this month, Satanic Temple spokesperson Lucian Greaves told the Huffington Post a similar diorama from the group was rejected by the Florida Department of Management Services for display in the state capitol for being grossly offensive. He said this year's display was a win for those who seek to include all views during the holidays. We think that our holiday display sends an affirmative message of inclusiveness and plurality, Greaves said. In addition to the Florida State House, the Satanic Temple also has a holiday display placed in the Michigan State House. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
well,
cool.
hey,
That's
like
great.
we said before, you can celebrate Christmas the way you want.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know that it's the right move to put a satanic display in the Florida
No,
State Capitol,
I'm all for it. And here's
but
why.
I don't
And
see
here's
any
why.
issues with it as well.
No, here's why. Because there is a thing called the separation of church and state, and fucking Christians wanted to push that. And they got
Right.
their little fucking things put on the fucking lawns of wherever, or in some fucking goddamn place. I can't remember how many different places have done it or whatnot.
Oh, many, 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 many
And
places.
they
Yes.
fucking opened the door for it. You should have just
Well,
fucking
that's-
you should have just fucking let it be, had your goddamn religion in your church, and enjoyed yourself. You opened the door for it. You have nobody to blame
is,
but yourselves when it comes to that one.
That is, see, I thought we'd go the whole show, Chris, without something happening at my house today because it's real quiet here. That is my phone going off in the background.
Huh.
Home phone.
Home phone.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I don't care what what beliefs you have, what faith you have, but if you want to push something, you have to understand that now that opens the door for the next group and the next group and the next group. Just like people who fight against certain rights that we have now that they don't like, gun control, whatever. It doesn't matter what the right is. You're opening the door for other things. You're losing freedoms that way.
Yeah.
That works the other way too. When you want to gain a freedom, you have to allow everybody else to gain that same freedom, and you can't then argue against it. But obviously, that's not how people think, you know.
Yeah, and it comes back to, you know, our basic rights as Americans, you know, freedom of speech, like you were saying, you know, the right to bear arms. You start going down these roads where the law is there designed in such, the reason there's a separation of church and state is to keep the church out of the government.
And vice versa, I think.
It's-
There is no actual separation of church and state.
And to be honest with you, I don't think any of it belongs there. I don't think the satanic shit belongs there. And I don't think pagan shit belongs there. I don't think fucking Christian shit, Muslim shit, Jewish shit, whatever the fuck it is. I don't believe any of it belongs there. It has no place there.
Now, if the State Department wants to decorate non-religiously, I suppose, you know, put a Christmas tree up, whatever, I don't care. I don't really care if they decorate it however they want. But I agree that
When you start fighting for these, when you start fighting for that shit, you open the door wide. You just fucking kick it wide open. Here you go.
Absolutely.
Everybody come on in.
We don't like your Satanistic display, but we must have our Christian display in here, or we must have our pagan display, or we must have our Buddhist display, whatever.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, but when you want yours, you have to allow somebody else, and that's what people don't get. So anyway.
Yeah, just fucking let it be, people.
We could do a whole show on that.
Have your damn fucking, you know, your whatever religious holiday. Enjoy it. Have a good time, and don't have to, you know, just don't have to, if this type of thing is going to upset you, this satanic diorama on the front lawn of the what is it, the
Florida State House.
The State House.
And the Michigan State House as well.
If that's going to bother you, I mean, I guess
don't go there.
Well, that's
don't
not
look at it.
Well, don't push to have yours there. Because
Right.
that's why they did it. They did it just because of that. And everybody
you push.
Everybody who's pissed off about it knows that. So, yeah, and you're right. We could go on about that for fucking ages.
But we're not a political show, so we won't go there.
That stuff kind of pisses me off, though.
It does me too. You know, I explained why. And then, you know, do your think. Just think before you do.
Right. This has been episode 60 of the Fortean Slip. It was rocky. It was rough. But we made it through it.
I want to wish all our viewers a non-traditional no, I can't say that. Can I say holiday?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Non-religious.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Season.
Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, shit. Is there like a celebration this time of year where you sit on the can and take a dump?
I'm about to recognize that celebration here as soon as we get done.
Oh, good. Well, marry that to you.